And then after that conversation, she ended up going and rebounding with another guy. I'm looking for like a little bit of advice. Pretty much, I was dating this girl for about a year and a half, and we had a very fruitful relationship. There was really no issues until the latter half of the relationship, I would say. We didn't have our first fight until about 9, 10 months in. And as we kept dating, I would say over the next few months, we had like the same repeated fight where I've done a little bit of research on the attachment styles. So I definitely have an anxious attachment style, and she tends to have an avoidant attachment style. And as you probably know, those two don't mesh well together when we have different interests in how much of what we want and what we want. So I've been doing a lot of work on myself in terms of how to like manage that and learn to be okay with that. And then I don't always need the reassurance that I'm constantly craving or the validation. And we broke up about 2 weeks ago, and then had like we were like, why don't we talk in 2 weeks and see how we feel? If this is the right decision. And we came to the conclusion, and she kind of came to the conclusion that she wanted to, but she wasn't sure if it was right or not, and kind of left me with the door open. And then after that conversation, she ended up going and rebounding with another guy. And I was just wondering, like, how my mind knows you have to let go, but my heart doesn't. So, like, what can I do to actually let go? And then this is kind of contradictory to that, but like, I also keep seeing this thing all over my TikTok. I read a book called Attach where it's like avoidance always come back. Like, what should I do about that as well? Like, the both sides of it. It's like a double edged sword.
I was muted there. Yeah, no, these are really good questions. And I would say this, man. I kind of typically put this as an let me use it as an analogy. Um, have you ever seen a train turn on a train track, um, and maybe make a turn on a corner at any given
Yeah.
point? And obviously in that same train, the locomotive leads, right? But
Yeah.
eventually, you don't necessarily see the full length or body of the train until obviously every cart makes that same turn. And so for a while, it's leading with the locomotive, and you see parts of it until it gets back on the singular track where you see the whole breadth of the train on one singular track. The reason why I'm making that picture, or painting that picture, is because the locomotive oftentimes represents our mind, our heads, our logic, our prefrontal cortex, if you will, where we're reasoning. We can see, okay, yes, obviously it makes sense to let go, to walk away. The rest of the train is representing our heart, our mind, our bodies, our emotions. Okay,
Right.
that soon come on the same page, even if it's not immediately there. And so, a big part of allowing ourselves to let go bodily, man, is yeah, obviously, yes, at a contextual or mind place, understanding why it doesn't make sense to return, why it doesn't make sense to, revisit the conversation or the relationship, but allowing ourselves bodily to process the emotions that we're carrying. The emotions have a way of being stored in the body, in various different directions. Won't necessarily get into all that. But in order to process it, man, we just have to let the emotions flow, because there is a part of your heart that still possibly wants it, was excited about it, was looking forward to coming back around, seeing what's left. And we just want to be honest about that and allow ourselves time to process that emotionally. Um, going through the grief stages, if you've heard of those, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance.
Yeah.
Okay. And, denial, I'm in shock. Anger is self explanatory. Bargaining is playing a lot of the what if and why in our mind. The depression isn't always connected to clinical depression, it's oftentimes can just be reflected on a functional sadness. Okay. So I'm sad, but I can still get my daily duties done. And then acceptance just says, I didn't like it, but I'm okay with it. Now, again, you don't have to feel those things in order. You don't have to complete a stage before you go to the next. It definitely has its flows in the first four areas. When you get to acceptance, that's really for a legitimate place. When you're really at acceptance, you don't find yourself going back to those previous four. And so anytime that you have a good day and then it circles back to being angry, sad, all the things, dang, I had a few good days and I'm still grieving and processing it. And so here's what I would do, man. I think, just to kind of see where you're at from an applicable standpoint, I want you to take 30 days. Okay. Just 30 days as just a beginning framework. And every day I want you to journal a couple things. All right. I want you to, number one, just kind of state where do you feel you are in the grief stages. Okay. Just kind of identifying where you are. Are you in denial, anger? What are you feeling in the moment? Um, and then just kind of talk a little bit about what it is specifically that is maybe reinforcing that stage for you to be in. And then as you do that, um, I want you to then, secondly, come back to circling what are the 5 to 7 things you're going to value about your relationships moving forward. We all can recognize there's some behaviors that we could have done differently, some things that, yes, for better or worse, we actually would want to experience maybe more of, less of, or differently in the future with next partners, right? There's some things that you need that, if you're honest, you probably weren't necessarily getting, and vice versa. And so we just want to be honest about that. What are the 5 to 7 things that you value about yourself or about relationships moving forward? Um, and then maybe you can just start with writing one, because you'll do this for 30 days. So maybe it'll just be a value, one value that you want to write. And then just discuss a little bit about why, what makes that value important. And then thirdly, I want you to just focus on some gratitude. One of the biggest things about not about walking through these areas, man, is sometimes we forget that the people that left us may leave us for the same reasons others choose to stay with us. And so sometimes we focus so much more on who left that we forget who remains or what remains. Gratitude helps us kind of recenter that and be more in the present. And again, it's all about just allowing us to allow those emotions to flow. And I think doing this is going to give us a nice time frame so we don't end up staying in these positions too long. But we do give ourselves an ample enough time. And if you get to the end of the 30 days and you're like, dang, yeah, I was nowhere near acceptance, do another 30 days. You know what I'm saying? Like, just kind of multiply it until you get to a place where you feel like, okay, I've had a consistent string of acceptance here that I've acknowledged and I'm okay. Um, but I think with the body getting on the same page, your heart getting on the same page, it's just allowing those emotions to flow. Thoughts will show up, curiosities and questions will show up. But we also realize that's just part of mind chatter. And it's not something that we have to over identify with in order to get the piece that we know belongs to us and we have the ability to look forward to coming out of. And it's all about us reframing the experience. Who did you become in the midst of that relationship? What was helpful or what was right about this relationship ending? I know that's hard to think about because it's not what you wanted, but what was right about it? I think sometimes those focuses and shifts can help us look at it differently, and help us look at pain through the lens of purpose. And yes, even though the avoidant might come back, man, listen. One of the we can't control what other people do, but we can control how we respond. And so taking responsibility in that is us just allowing those people to do what they do because they're moving reactively, just like anxiousness moves reactively. This time we're recognizing and aware, okay, they may come back, they may create distance, and then all of a sudden send a hey text message. Let that be information and feedback that is maybe more towards where you are and not so much about trying to control or keep them from circling back. Because you don't have to respond and you don't have to give that time and attention. Does that make sense? I said a
Yeah,
lot.
it does. Um, it's also just fucking grueling, to be honest. But
Yeah.
I guess the hardest part about coming to terms with it is that, and I mean, I've talked to my friends about this too. It's easy to just for them to discard you and then
Hmm.
go about their day and look like nothing is wrong or they're completely fine or they rebound and everything's great. And then you're just like, oh my God, like, did they forget about me?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's definitely hard, but like
Hmm.
you said, it's like the train. My body needs to just start one thing at a time and eventually I'll be fully on board.
Absolutely. It's one day at a time, man. And those things can hurt, man, because it's like we spent so much time, we invested so much together just for this to be it, just like that. We were together here and now it just feels like we're strangers again. That's kind of odd.
Yeah.
And it can rattle us mentally and emotionally in various different ways. But we also recognize too, man, that people who have the capacity to do things like that, it doesn't make them better. It doesn't make them greater. And it also doesn't give them the privilege to define the value that we carry or what we're worth moving forward. And I think that's something that's really, really good to just think on and allow yourself to rehearse. They did this for whatever reason, but it doesn't get to define who Max is moving forward, or what Max is available for regarding love moving forward. And this is really an opportunity for us to really see what our threshold and tolerance is for pain, because that is a very different thing too. Sometimes we've never experienced some things like this before. It could be a first, and so it hits different, um, and it hurts a lot. It's grueling, as you described it, and so this is giving us the ability to just have some capacity expansion with what we can tolerate when it comes to pain, and just getting an opportunity to discover those and grow with it at the same time. And I definitely believe the best is yet to come for you, man. Taking the time to heal through this healthily.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, my privilege, man. And again, if you have more questions, just let me know. Send a message, and we'll figure it out.
Will do. Thank you.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Take it easy. All right, man. Put a one in the chat for Max, man. I hope that made sense and was helpful. Um, that stuff can be that stuff can be troubling. But there is a way out, and there's a way forward, and it's with our ability to just give ourselves time to process these things healthily, and allow the emotions to flow as they show up, not hindering them, not limiting them, but being present in them. um, it definitely can be of help.